Hey, everybody, and welcome back. I just finished up doing a podcast with this guest, and let me tell you, this is one of the most unique personalities I've ever got to meet. We had so much fun. I was like, I've got to have you on my show. So today, I've got Dwan Bent-Twyford. She started as a broke single mom. She'd been fired from Denny's, didn't have anywhere to go, climbed her way up, started real estate investing, started food chain, owning rentals, commercial buildings, becoming an international trainer. She's a best-selling author multiple times over. She's written 3 bestsellers. She's done over $500 million in real estate transactions, over 2,000 deals, and has over 500,000 students. That's over 500,000 students. There's so much stuff to unpack. I'm so excited. It is a pleasure to have you on the show today.
Oh, thank you, Brandon. It's a pleasure to be here. You know, it's funny, even after all these decades, when I hear someone introduce me, I'm like, who are they talking about? I just can't just be like little old me right there. But that's all true. All true.
Oh, the track record speaks for itself. So there's
Crazy.
so many things I want to get into with you today. Like
Okay.
I know that there's a lot of pain points that you have lived through and worked through that I know a lot of people in the audience may be struggling with. Before we get into the nitty gritty, give us a brief background. I love your Denny's to diamonds. I mean, there's got to be a good story in there. Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
So I did actually work at Denny's, and it's so funny because I worked third shift. That's 10 at night till 6 in the morning. That's like the shift that nobody wants.
Oh my God.
And I had been there for actually a pretty good amount of time. I'm a good worker. I covered all the shifts for everybody else. But I had a manager who did not appreciate my blurting out everything that was in my mind. And so I got fired one night at like 3:45 in the morning, like no joke, the middle of the night. And I remember looking back at that sign, I was like, who gets fired from Denny's at 3:45 in the morning? Like, what do you do after that? Do I go to Waffle House? Like, what do I do after Denny's? So it was just so bizarre. And I thought, wow, I can't believe I was fired from like such a low, and not low rent. I mean, I still go eat Grand Slams, but it's like Denny's. Like, how could Denny's fire me? They did. They said I was insubordinate. I talked back. I told other people how they could do their job better, and all those things I think an entrepreneur would do, but I didn't know I was an entrepreneur inside waiting to bust out.
Yeah. So it sounds like you didn't have a filter. You calls it as you sees it. I was kind of similar. And even in the interview processes, my bosses were like, so what's your biggest weakness? And I was like, I don't sugarcoat things. I just calls them as I see it. I'm very frank and honest. And sometimes that's a good thing. And sometimes it's a bad thing, but that eventually led to you getting into and starting your own thing. So what was that like? Like, when did the light bulb moment, was there a light bulb moment that went off when you realized that you wanted to do your own thing? And was real estate the first thing that you had your heart set on, or was it something else?
No, it's funny. I never in my whole entire life thought about doing real estate or being in real estate. Nothing. I got married. I had a baby when I was 30. So I waited I was pretty wild. Like when my 20s, it was the 80s. And I was like all in on all that, like drinking, drugs, partying, clubbing, cocaine. Like I was all in on the whole crazy world that there was. And then I settle down, I get married, have a baby. I'm like, I'm going to stay home. I'm going to have kids. I'm going to be like the Girl Scout mom, the field trip mom, the mom with the disco ball, like all the fun stuff. And then when my daughter was only 8 months old, her dad and I split up like really unexpectedly. Mm-hmm. So now I literally am 30 years old. I have an 8-month-old child. I have no husband. And during that time, I got my car repossessed and I lost the house in foreclosure. So it's like my whole world just tumbled in on me. And it was so funny because I thought, well, you know what? Got to put on my big girl panties and I have to go figure out something I can do and I can raise my daughter. So this is before you were even born. She's 34. So this is like the 90s, like the 1990-ish. And back in those days, for looking for jobs, everything was in the classified section of the newspaper. So I'm looking at jobs. I'm just like, man, I don't want to get a job. I don't want to raise her on daycare. I waited till I was 30 so I could be a stay-at-home mom with my kids. Like, it was just like my whole apple cart was upset, but I didn't want to give up the one thing, which was being able to raise her by myself. So that left me in a position like, okay, what do I want to do? And then I realized I really have no job skills because I've been fired from a lot of jobs. I have a lot of sales experience. I don't want to wait tables. I know if I get a job, I just know I'm going to be in this job till she's 18 at least, which puts
Mhm,
me like at 50. I'm like, well, I
mhm.
certainly don't want to wait table. And nothing against y'all that wait tables. No shame. It's like I didn't see that for myself. So I really just started looking for something to do. And I met a couple guys and they said, we buy houses and we fix them up and we sell them. Now I know nothing about real estate. I have no license. I know no people in real estate. So my mind hears we buy them, we fix them up, and we sell them. So fix them up to me means decorate. I'm not even joking. So with all intents and purposes, I believe I'm going to become a decorator. I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to decorate it. I'm going to fix it up. And they said, oh, just talk to people in foreclosure and get someone to deed their house to you. And then you fix it up and then you sell it. So 30 days into finding a house, moving into it, living on credit cards, I paint it, I put in the carpet, I make the custom made blinds, I do all the stuff. It's like, gosh, this house needs so much work. And I have no skills at all. And so I started going to Home Depot. I started taking those in person, those Home Depot classes. I learned how to put in tile and change toilets and do electrical and build cabinets. So Ayla would be sleeping at night and I'd be in the house building and rehabbing and all the stuff.
You would sleep in the house?
Yeah, I couldn't afford to like live here and do this. So, I mean, I was like literally on credit cards. I was really broke. My aunt
Oh.
gave me $3,000 to buy a car. And it was like not a car I would normally typically drive. So I moved into this house with my daughter. I fixed up one bedroom, put some carpet, made it look nice, put us in there. I worked on this house, living in this house. I did that for 5 years till she started kindergarten. I'd move in, I'd fix it, I'd sell it, I'd move in, fix it, sell it. And then when she started kindergarten, I was living in a really nice house I had rehabbed in Boca Raton, Florida. And I thought,
Mhm.
nice Boca Raton. Like, I'm going to just stay in this house for a while. So yeah, so I literally went to Home Depot and learned all of the stuff. And she'd be sleeping and I'd be building cabinets and making screens and painting and learning how to do knockdown. And so it's so crazy when I look back. It's like I don't even know what I was thinking, but I knew I wanted to work for myself and I really liked it. I really liked the physical work and I liked rehabbing and seeing what I just like, wow, look what I did. Like this looks great. So I
Mhm.
enjoyed all that. And then I made 22,000 bucks on my first deal. And
Nice.
1990, having been a waitress, and now I got $22,000 in the bank. I'm like, ooh, I'm rich. I'm rich. I'm rich. I'm rich. I'm gonna do this again. And now, like 32 years later, still doing it.
Wow. I want
Is
to
that
go
so
deep.
crazy?
That is wild. You did something, you've unlocked something, you figured something out that a lot of people haven't been able to figure out. So I want to go deep on this. You figured out how to basically start a business while you were a single mom raising a kid. Nothing can
Yes.
be harder than that. It is hard enough trying to start a business.
Yeah.
But when you've got to do it when you're a single parent, it's hard enough having a partner
Yes.
with children and doing it, but to do it as a single mom, my sister's a single mom. She's got 2 kiddos. I see everything that she's going through. It takes a community to raise kids. It is a lot of work.
It's a
Now,
lot.
what did your structure, what did your day look like? Like how can someone repeat what you did if they're in a similar situation?
Well, back then, I was really just working on a sense of urgency. And I had Ayla in the house with me. So she had like all the toys and all the stuff. And I would let her paint and draw on the wall. So to her, the whole house was a canvas. She paints and draw and just and we did that in every single house. And then I'd say, okay, now mommy's gonna paint this wall now. This is the last thing you can draw on the walls. We're gonna paint it, and then no more drawing on the walls. So I would let her just be free in the house. She'd be crawling around and she'd be painting and drawing and playing with her dolls and just like being in the house with me. And we lived in this house. First house was in Boynton Beach, Florida. So we take a lunch break every day, go to the beach, walk around the beach. Just get out of the house because I'm like living and breathing and eating in this house all the time. And we go to the beach and we, have her on my bike seat and ride the bike around. Like we got out of the house, but I just was with her all the time, 24/7. And she's in the house and there's, a little TV with like what would we have back then? Like a VCR.
Uh-huh.
or something, and she'd be watching the Disney and all the Disney sing-alongs, just crawling around the around the house.
So did you essentially have free housing because you're moving you and your daughter from home to home as y'all would finish them?
Yeah, so I
Oh my
would,
gosh.
usually I'd find someone in foreclosure that would like deed their house to me, so I'd have to make the payments,
Mhm.
and I'd be living in it, making the payments on it, and then when we sold it, I'd always give some money to the homeowner, whatever amount, we did a lot of, I did a lot of partnering, even though I didn't know it was called partnering. And
Yeah.
then I'd find another house and move into that one. And I always would fix up the master bathroom first. So Adel's crib would be in there. So we had like a clean room with like out tack strips on the ground, like, one room that was clean. So I could like at least like lay down and light a candle at night and not be worried about the rest of the house as a bomb. And I don't know, my second house, I made 50 grand on my second house. And I was just like, my God, like that's the most amount of money I've ever known anyone to even have. So I thought, "Pfft, I'm rich. I'm doing this forever."
S
And I moved and moved until she started kindergarten. And then I started wholesaling. I'd
Mhm.
find the houses, I'd wholesale them to another rehab or a landlord.
Yeah.
And then I wholesaled like 1,000 houses, just like boom, I just killed it.
So
And
how did you come up with the money for these houses being in the financial disrepair you were in at the time?
honestly, back then, I had a $10,000 Home Depot card. I do
Okay.
not know how I had the giant credit card was Home Depot. And my aunt, I borrowed money, 3,000 bucks to my aunt to buy a car. And I used that Home Depot credit card and I ran up like $65,000 in credit card,
Okay.
paying for things. And once I sold the first house, I started whittling away. And by the second house, I was completely out of debt. I was like, this is great. I'm home all day and go to the beach whenever I want to. I got my daughter with me. Like, this is great. Thank God
Yeah.
he left. This is the best thing that ever happened to me. But it did not feel that way at the time. I felt like my world was decimated.
Yeah, 100%. So you were able to
Decimated.
pay for the materials with credit cards. I
Home
started
Depot
my
credit card.
business with all my savings and my 401k account, my credit cards. How about purchasing the homes? How were you able to pull that off? Were you using hard money loans? Were you using subject to deals or
Like
seller
subject
financing?
twos, but I didn't know that it was called a subject to. Like again, in the early '90s, there was nobody. The only person on TV was Carlton Sheets. If anybody even remembers back that far,
Uh-huh.
Carlton Sheets was on TV, like whatever his program was, and there was nobody doing workshops or seminars. So there weren't even RIA groups yet. Like I was already investing about 4 years, and I saw an ad in the paper that says in Boca Raton is a real estate investors meeting.
Mhm.
And I thought, oh my gosh, there's other investors. Like I'm not the only person in all of South Florida. They go to this meeting, there was like 80 people there. And I was like, holy
Mhm.
cow, there's a whole community of people doing what I'm doing. But I didn't know anybody. I was literally these people I met, like, yeah, we go door knocking and we write down the addresses. We go up to the courthouse, we map it out. We just talk to homeowners and they'll deed to their house and you just move in. And like I had such a little bit of knowledge. It was literally by the grace of God that these deals worked out and that nothing backfired on me or I didn't make some really bonehead move. And then once I was in it a couple of years and that RIA group started,
Uh-huh.
I started learning like, oh, wow, I could be a landlord. I could wholesale. I could do all these things because I only knew one thing: buy it, fix it, sell it. Buy it, fix it, sell it. It's all I did for like 4 years, 100% of the time. It
Wow.
was really
So
crazy. Honestly, I'm telling you, it was like I look back and I'm thinking, I have no idea how on God's earth I made that happen. And then once I had done a couple deals, I hired a couple guys. I said, okay, I could have a homeowner deed me this one and deed me this one. I could have some guys fix this one out. We could do two.
yeah.
So now I had never managed people and contractors and construction guys are like, the people I was hiring, they're like, drinking coolers full of beer all day and like and they're
Yeah.
I'm buying supplies and we needed money and it took me a minute to realize when I give them money they're finishing their last job and
Yeah.
they come so it took me a minute to learn all that. So I don't know, I just really was determined to not work for anybody else because I was just gonna the rest of my idea was gone, but I wasn't giving up on this one.
Okay. So I know that you're like rehabbing an entire town. before we jump into that, connect the dots. How did you go from basically it's like a house flipping gypsy is like what comes to
That's
mind. You know,
it.
you're
Oh, you know
living in
what
the
a good idea.
houses and going from house to house. How did you get from
House
that?
flipping gypsy. What a great name for a book.
Yes, I hope that doesn't offend you, but I was like, that just
No, and that's exactly
sounds to
right.
me
I was
like
like
what
a
it
gypsy.
was.
I had enough furniture for like the master bedroom, and I just moved, and then I moved,
Yeah.
and then I moved, and then I moved. And I was like, okay, I'm staying in this house, and it was a beautiful house. I lived in that house for like 5 years. I was like, oh, Boca Raton, like look at me living up here with all the fancy people. So so then at that point, there's a RIA group. So I'm starting to learn and I'm meeting other people. Like I still to this day don't have a real estate license. I'm meeting other investors. I'm finding out what they're doing. This RIA group has monthly meetings and speakers. So I'm going to everything and I'm really like super overdrive to learn everything that I can possibly learn from everyone. I'm like offering anyone, I'll take you to lunch, like just anything you have to say, impart your knowledge on me. And so I wholesaled for a while. All right, rehab. And then I discovered wholesaling. I thought, well, this sounds easier. Like I'm not breaking my back. And I started working with another woman that went into that same RIA group. And we opened up a little tiny office and we were just wholesaling machines, like 75, 80 deals a year, just wholesaling like crazy people. And so I did that for a decade. So my daughter, when I married my husband, Bill, Ayla was already 13. So I was like, 13 years, killing it, balls to the wall, doing houses, flipping houses, buying rentals. If I learned it, I did it. I would learn it and do it and learn it and do it and learn it and do it. Then I married Bill, and he has been an investor for approximately the same amount of time. And he's done like $600-700 deals. And I was like, wow, like, when you've done like 700 or 800 deals, you understand what that means when you meet another person. Because, I'm sure you meet people all the time. They're like, oh, I've done 25 deals. I'm like,
They get it.
God, you're so cute. You did 25 deals. You keep doing that. But when you meet someone that's done like 500, you're like, oh, okay, they get it. Like they're in it to win it. So I married Bill, and we've just had our 21-year anniversary. We met at a RIA group of all places. And we start going back to Clinton, Iowa, which is where he's from, for these high school reunions. We both go to all of our high school reunions. And the first time we went, I was like, there's this little cute downtown right on the river, Mississippi River, just a really cute downtown that like time forgot. And so we go back like 5 years later, and I'm like, somebody needs to be doing something with this downtown because, now I've got more experience. I've got like, 20 years into real estate investing. And then we go back for another. So this is over a span of like a 5 year, like 15 years. And the 15-year mark is like, I don't know, like the 35th anniversary or something. I'm like, people, I don't understand. This town looks exactly the same as the first time we came here. Let's talk to somebody and see if they have something happening and like maybe like re-beautify or fix up the downtown. And then we found out they have a downtown coalition. They have all this money and all this grants, and they're like begging people to buy buildings, and they want to fix up all, but no one will buy any buildings, I guess, because the town's like half of it's boarded up and half of it's open.
Yeah, it's like Detroit back in 2010. Yeah.
So we started, let's see, we started like 7 years ago. So this is 2023. So I think we bought our first building like 6 years ago.
Okay.
So we we bought a building from this couple that's like, oh, my husband died. I've had this building for a decade. It's like a 20,000 square foot building for like $25,000. And we're like, oh, who can say no to that? Because to me, that seems really cheap, Well, then this woman tells her friend, and she calls, and Carol says, hey, I've got 3 buildings. My husband's been passed away for a decade. They've just been sitting there. Will you buy my building? And we're like, oh my God, 3 more buildings. Like, I don't know. So only if you'll like owner finance them, no money down for us. Oh, whatever. I'm moving to Florida. Well, then her friend calls, and I am telling you, within a 2-year period, all these people start calling saying, you bought this one's building, this one's building, this one's building. Will you buy my building?
And these are all commercial buildings like downtown?
All commercial buildings. And the whole downtown is 3 blocks this way and 3 blocks off the water. So it's 3 blocks this way and 3 blocks this way. It's a little 9 square block. It has its own downtown. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but it's its own downtown taxes, money, grants. There's all the stuff that's just to bring back the downtown. And so somewhere along the way, like 10 buildings, like, listen, we need to really seriously stop buying buildings. Like, we have 10 buildings and they all need work. And then the guy from the bank called. He says, hey, we've got this lot. It's on the very last town street to the edge of the downtown. It's 5 lots. It's got a parking lot. It's got 20 storage units. It's got a big 3-bay building that used to have like someone that worked on trucks that left all the equipment in there. He's like, you got, and I'm like, no, we can't, we don't know, no. He's like, we'll just lend you the money. You just make payments on it. And we're like, oh my God. So, and they just kept coming. So finally at 20, I'm like, listen, that's it. No more buildings. So during the pandemic, we were working on buildings. We opened 3 actual businesses. One building we put an antique mall in. One building we put in a clothing boutique. And one building we put in a coffee shop. So some of them we fixed them up and then we just started businesses. And now the entire downtown's like booming. The property values downtown have gone up 45% already in just 5 years. And people are lining up to get buildings now.
Unbelievable.
It's
What
crazy.
city was this? What,
It's
what's
called Clinton, Iowa. Everybody can Google Clinton, Iowa.
Clinton,
And
Iowa.
we have the scoop on every building. Every building that comes up, the bank calls us and the real estate guys. So we now get first shot at every single building that comes up. It's the craziest thing. Can you imagine that? And I was like, okay, so I guess we're rehabbing a downtown now? Like, how did that happen? But there's so much money.
Now,
and so it's an opportunity zone. So
okay.
people that don't know about opportunity zones don't understand how much money is available for outside. Like they'll do facades, they'll do windows, they'll do roofs. 2 of our buildings are getting a full 4-story mural painted down on the side of the building. So there's a lot of money for people that buy in opportunity zones, and it's right on the Mississippi River. And the town to this direction is called LeClaire. And you know the guys that do the Pickers, the TV show, the
American Pickers, yeah.
Okay, they're in that little town. That town was all boarded up too, but they have a garage right on the water, and now the whole town's hopping. And then the town to this way is called Galena, and it's like the most amazing little mecca I've ever seen. And here's Clinton just sitting in the middle, like time left this town behind. And so there we are.
All right, I'm so interested in this. So this is a very contrarian investing approach, and I mean it's very high risk, high reward. High risk in the sense that you got to think, if you've got a bunch of abandoned buildings, psychologically, a lot of people have kind of written that area off. Oh, you know, that place will never come back. It's abandoned. You know, businesses are afraid to set up shop there. And so, you know, that's obviously why the prices decrease. So did you use any kind of mental frameworks and to like evaluate and filter this area? Like how did you know that this was going to be a success? What made you so confident?
Well, you know, it's so funny. We didn't, but Bill and I think I always tell people as a real estate investor, I feel like people like us have a higher risk tolerance than somebody that maybe works at a factory for 50 years and retires. So Bill and I are sort of like lightning together because our risk factor is mine's high, but his is higher.
Yeah.
And we're sort of like the people that like jump off the cliff and we'll just figure it out before we hit the bottom. So when we first started with the first building, it's the cornerstone building of the whole town. We thought, you know what, this is a little area. There's a few buildings there now that are full of antique stores. So people like in the Midwest, they go antiquing.
Yeah.
So we finished one building, fixed it up, put a little antique store in it, and the place just took off. So we're like, okay, well, these other 2 buildings don't need that much. Let's do those, and we'll put like something in them. So we started, and I'm not even ever had any retail businesses. We put 2 businesses over there. So now
You
there's like 2
own those
places.
businesses. Did you own those businesses or did you
Yeah.
just lease to
No,
a
we
business?
run them.
You
No,
ran
we're
them.
running
Okay.
them
So
and
you're like
operating.
leasing it to yourself.
I'm telling you, we lost our minds. And then one building was right on the river, and it's beautiful. It didn't need anything. It's just that it was a furniture store. It's a 4-story. It's freaking beautiful. And I told Bill, I said, okay, we're going to take that building and we're going to build a big ass loft in there. And we're going to live right there. So when we're there in the summers, we stay there. It's over the water. It's 4 stories. It's magnificent. So we moved into one of the buildings. And then I don't know, we just started talking to different people and seeing what everybody wanted. And we leased out of space here and leased out of space there. And
Mhm.
then people would call, and everyone that called, we said, no, we can only do them if you just do 100% financing. We can't give any money down because we're putting money into the buildings. And all those people did that. All of those people did that.
Wow. And it paid off enormously. Like I
So huge.
said, the building shot up 45%. So it was high risk, high reward, but you pulled it off. That is amazing.
And the biggest building in the downtown is called the Wilson Building. A
Mhm.
company had bought it like a decade ago, and they were going to put these lofts in there, and that was sitting there and sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. Well, after we started buying so much stuff, we went to the city and said, make them build that. They just opened up a month ago. They put $17 million in this building. It's full of lofts and has a whole giant food court downstairs. And the building on the block behind it, there's an old hotel, like where the movie stars used to stay, and someone bought that. They're putting 25 million into that. So we have pushed the city like, hey, this downtown can't take off with the 2 main buildings boarded up to the ceiling.
Yeah.
So we started like pushing and pushing and pushing and got involved on all the boards of all the stuff, and not like you, the mayors and all the people and the administrators. And now this one giant building opened up and the whole downtown has changed. We're like, we did that. We
That
did
is that is so cool. That is so cool. I cannot wait to go and check some of this stuff out.
You have to
If I'm
come. I tell
driving
people all
up
the time,
that.
come to Clinton, Iowa.
Yeah, no, I'm definitely going to check it out. That is super cool. I want to talk about something that I know is on the minds of a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of business owners. You've
But
been
just real
married.
quick, I do want to say, if you're brand spanking new, don't buy a town right out of the gate. Just
Don't
don't,
don't do that. Hey,
don't
it's
do that. Wait till
walk
you've been
before you can
like
run.
in for a minute, then do it. Because right now, we've wholesaled like 2,500 houses. We've rehabbed thousands of houses. We've done hundreds of subject to. So it's like, this is something we've never done. And this is really fun. And we get to be creative and just like make it however we want it to be. We can turn the town to the vibe that we want.
Yeah,
So
that's
not
pretty
to
cool.
interrupt you, but I just want to tell people, don't do that right away.
100%.
Prefacing, don't do
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So you and your husband, Bill, y'all have worked together for over 20 years. So
Yes.
he's in the business as well. I know that a lot of people struggle when their spouse is also in the business. I actually thought that I was going to end up marrying somebody that was going to build the empire with me, right? And probably another entrepreneur, probably someone who's gung ho. I'd probably, convince her to get into the RE business. And I discovered that I don't think I want that. I love hanging out with Jamie because it's an unplug away from business. It's a way for me to recharge. And I do know other married couples that work together and like they have a tough time shutting it off. And as a result, I see that they often complain because of burnout, because they just can't turn things off because you're living with someone who's also in the business. You're both passionate about it. And of course, with business, you can work and talk about it 24/7 because there's also stuff. So how have you and Bill been able to create this relationship where it works working together in the business?
It's funny. The decade that I was in the business before I met him, my partner and I, Sharon, opened up a RIA, Real Estate Investing Association. And we always said, both of us, we're never going to date an investor, never going to date an investor, never. So, guys at the club would ask us out. And, as a woman, if I date a guy and break up and they're all at the RIA group, then, you're like the real estate hoe. But as a guy, if you're dating all the girls and they're like, oh yeah, man, go get her, So I never dated an investor. And that was my hard rule. No investors, no matter what. I don't want to talk shop. Never happening. And then I met Bill and I was like, oh, God, that guy's so gorgeous. And he's an investor. I was like, I don't want to break my rule. I don't want to date an investor. Like, I just don't. And I don't know. In like 3 days, we were talking about getting married. So, so he had 2 kids and I had a daughter, and at that time, so we would have gotten married like 2000 ish, 2022, 2002, I guess. All of our kids were in high school, and we were doing a lot of speaking. And so
Mhm.
we thought, you know what, we're just going to take the kids with us and make this big giant adventure. So we hired a private tutor, and if we had to go speak anywhere, we would take all the kids and we'd go speak, and then we'd spend a week or two, and we literally traveled the whole entire time that the kids were in high school.
Wow.
So it was more like we built this amazing blended family of just on the road, traveling, having fun, downtime at home. And we were all, the kids, we were all living it, eating it, breathing it. The kids became investors right up out of high school.
Mhm.
And then, we got to the empty nest, and it's like, okay, what are we going to do? It's like, well, I don't know, let's build a town. So I think that we have just always made sure we made it fun.
Okay. Tell me more
And
about that.
And I kept the house in Florida because I'm a beach girl. So when I feel like we've had like too much togetherness, I'll just go to Florida for a couple months and be like, you stay here. I'm gonna go to Florida like for 3 months, and we're totally fine, and we're no one's weird or insecure about that. So I do escape off to the beach.
Okay, so one thing that stands out right there, one tool that I feel like I've extracted from this in my relationship is you need your own personal space. We kind of all know that,
We do.
but few people act on it and actually create something. So you have taken that tool and created it from your beach house in Florida.
Yeah, because I lived in Delray Beach. I had a beautiful house, and actually, the house I lived in when I met Bill was the first house I'd ever had built from the ground up. And
Mhm.
I loved the house, and I told him, I said, listen, I love the beach. I love the idea of doing like 6 months, 6 months. I'm happy to commingle our existences, but I need a place to go, and I
Yeah.
need some place where I can be at the beach because I'm a beach person. I'll lay out in 200-degree weather just naked at the beach. And Bill was like, yeah. And I said, if we can't keep both houses, then you're going to have to move to Florida because I'm not giving up the thing that my soul lives at the ocean.
Yeah.
And so we kept that. And so as when our kids were little, we'd go all the spring breaks, all the Christmases, the summers, at the there. And then now we're older. Um, so that was one thing from the beginning, because I had already been independent for 13 years and built a business and was making millions of dollars by myself. So I wasn't about to like have this man come in and like mess up all my thing. It's like
Yeah.
I got all this happening. So we didn't start together. So I don't know how it would have been starting the business together, but meeting where we were and building from there was magnificent.
All right. So tool number one is have your own personal space. If, I guess a man cave or if it's a beach house, what are some other mental frameworks or some routines that you feel like you've practiced or implemented that helped prevent burnout, y'all working together in the business? Maybe there's not any, maybe y'all did just talk about
Now
it
we have
24/7
a
and you
couple
loved
things.
it,
We
but
don't talk about business after 6 o'clock.
okay. So that no business after 6
Nope.
p.m.
We
Okay.
sit down and I'm a Hallmark junkie. I love Hallmark movies. I'm like, oh my God, every Hallmark movie, they fall in love. And so every night at 6 o'clock, it's like, that's it. We have dinner. We don't talk about anything. And be like, let's watch a Hallmark movie. So we'll watch movies or just hang out or go for a walk or whatever we do. So we don't after 6, like that's it.
Uh-huh.
And we make sure on the weekends that we have time to go out and like date, like go to a movie or go see our grandkids or go somewhere.
Weekly date nights, no matter what.
Yeah, because otherwise, like when we first bought those buildings, we would go to Iowa in 6 or 7 months at a time. Well, 24 hours a day. You're talking to the rehabbers, the contractors. It's like every single waking minute. And the only time you're not talking is when you're asleep.
Mhm.
And so we were like, okay, that's too much togetherness for any sane
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
So between having a place in Iowa and a place in Colorado, and I get not everybody can do this, and a place in Florida, sometimes I'll just go to Iowa by myself for like 2 months because I love to be there. I love the people. I made amazing friends there. Sometimes Bill will go there and I'll stay here. Sometimes I'll go to Florida. Sometimes he'll go to Florida. So we just have always been okay with not having to be together all the time because I don't feel like that's healthy.
Yeah.
I know for me it's not. Like I have to have Like my office is so gold and girly and it's got lights in here. And it's like, it looks different than every room in the entire house because I need like a space.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, everyone can't afford to have a second home. But if you can, even if it's a little cabin somewhere, it doesn't cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Have a place where you guys can go together and go apart and not be up each other. Why are you going for 2 months without me? Like, my family thinks it's weird. You guys just spent 2 months apart. Isn't that weird? It's like, no, not for us. We've done it since day one. We dated long distance for almost 2 years. It's
Yeah.
not weird for us.
Yeah. Wow. So yeah, I
So I
get
do
not every.
recommend that right out of the gate. Have a space that's someplace else.
It's funny that you mentioned that because I do a lot of traveling, and I'm always kind of excited to travel and kind of replug. I love traveling, not just for fun, but for business as well.
Yeah.
And I've realized that after like 3 or 4 days, I really start to miss my wife. Like,
Yeah.
it's like a pull on my heart, and I come back and I'm like all excited. And she's like, "Can you take out the trash?" And I'm like, "I'll take out the trash, whatever you need me to
I'll do
do."
whatever you want.
It's just nice. And then of course, if you spend too much time together, I noticed that I'm like, oh my gosh, every little thing she does gets on my nerves. And that's kind of the trigger that I'm like,
I
maybe
like
I
that
need
too.
to like, go somewhere for a little bit and kind of do that unplug. So I love it. I'm 100% supportive. If you don't have the funds to go and buy multiple houses somewhere, there's Airbnb. There's
Airbnb,
portable
anything. You
options.
have to have a way. Like
Yeah.
there's been times that it's been like really we had snow or something in Denver. I'm like, I'm gonna go get a hotel. They just for a couple of weeks. I just want to be like down in town and not like trapped in the mountain. And
Yeah.
we both just like I've gone and just gotten a hotel room like at a place with a spa and just hung out and got massages and swam in the pool and so we've just always done it. And we made the decision when we got married we were going to keep doing that because everyone I know that works together and lives together, does everything together, end up in divorce.
Yep. 100%.
Everyone that I know, and we don't want to be those people.
Yeah. I want to talk about something that not a lot of people talk about. There seems to be a lack of female presence in real estate, not just real estate, but business in general.
Yes.
Why do you think that is?
When I first started, we're I was coming off the 80s. So I still had like the bleach blonde, the big permed hair, and the tan, and like the big boobs. And I had a really hard time getting any men to take me serious. And I mean, seriously, they were just like, yeah, and now my hair is purple. So I think it's like, okay, I think people at this point are like, you know what? She's gonna do whatever she wants. So you just take her serious because she's smart.
Yeah.
But I think that a lot of women are not encouraged.
Mhm.
Like I graduated, so this is way pre your time. I graduated high school in the 70s. And as women, we were told, graduate high school, get married, have kids, and get a job in a factory. So my whole life I was told that. And I did get a factory job for like 2 weeks. And I thought, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. Like I've never been in a factory and it was miserable and hot and it was concrete floors and you're filthy dirty all day. And I'm like, oh my God, why would someone want me to do this? And I feel like women are still encouraged to get married. And like I teach my girls, a man is not a plan. Like that's just it. A man is not a plan. You do what you want. You get a degree if you want. You buy rentals. You do whatever. I don't care if you get married and have 200 kids. You have got to be independent because I still think that women are raised to not be as independent as men are raised. Even in today's society, you don't have like stay-at-home moms like you used to. You don't have a lot of things. The thing that women are just generally not encouraged to like go out and blaze a trail.
Why do you
And
think
so they
that
don't.
is? So it starts at a young age, and obviously times have changed a lot since the 70s. And, today there's a lot more empowerment around women. Honestly, I think that the feminist movement and, equality for women, it has completely reshaped. I think it's caused a masculinity crisis, honestly, because men are kind of like, what the heck does it mean to be a man anymore? Because what a lot of those masculine roles are, provider, bring the meat on the table, show up, but kind of be the head of the family. Like women are doing that stuff now. And so it's like, what the heck does it even mean to be a man? Like what do you think needs to happen in our culture and society? Like I'm talking from a macro level. I know women need to be more encouraged, but like, what does that look like?
Honestly, you're probably going to get some hate mail over this. We need to stop demasculating men. Men have a role, women have a role. It doesn't matter if you want to have opposite roles, but women can't be men and men can't be women. So I'm a woman, I'm supposed to be all supportive of the feminists. I hate that whole movement. It's like, men are like, oh, if I open a door for a woman, she yells at me. It's like, but that's called manners. My parents are from Tennessee. You're from Tennessee. Those are called manners. Like if I didn't say yes, ma'am, and no, sir, and all those things, I would have got my ass beat. So it's like somehow the manners have gone away, and everyone thinks like, oh, we need, women need. I don't know. God, I could just go off for like a tangent on it. Honestly, I think what needs to happen is people just need to understand that I'm a woman. I made it in business. Any woman can make it in business, but women still bear the children. Men still are the cavemen that go hunt and gather. Like those are the God-given roles that God designed inside of us.
Yeah.
To do these things, and if you'll work together with it instead of fighting each other, I think everyone would be happier.
I love
And I
that
know
solution.
that probably sounds like really old-fashioned, but you know what? Those are literally built into our DNA.
Yeah. Wow. That's incredible to hear you say something like that. So stop demasculating men.
Stop
Yeah.
it. Oh my God. I see all these men on fashion shows. It's like, what are they wearing? Where are the men? Where are the men that wear like the clothes? Who made all the men look like girls? Like, stop demasculating all the men.
Oh my gosh. That is,
yeah. And listen, I'm all about, you want to be trans, you want to be whatever, you be whatever you want to be, but do not tell me how to be.
Yeah.
Stop demasculating the men. Let the men be the men and let the women be. It's a privilege to be a woman. We get to give birth. We get to do all these great things. Take on your role and work together and build some amazing things together.
I love exactly what you just said there. Every little bit. I mean, I got nothing to add to it because you just hit the nail on the head.
Someone's gonna write and say, "I can't believe she said that." But honest to God, stop demasculating all the men. These men today, I'm just like, and they're your age of millennials. It's like, what are they wearing? What happened to the men? Where did the men go?
Oh man, it has been such a pleasure having you on the show today. You're most definitely one of the biggest personalities we've ever had. If the guests and audience want to learn more about you, I know you've got everything from like coaching. I know you've got tons of free content on your website. How do they connect with you? How do they learn more about you? Where should they go?
They can just Dwanderful. So I took Dwan and wonderful and I made a word, and I decided to make my brand Dwanderful because I'm amazing. So dwanderful.com. I have a free ebook there. Flip Your Way to a Fortune. It's about wholesaling. And on my podcast, I don't know, I'm on like almost coming up on 400 shows. So my podcast is in like the 0.05%, like way up at the top of the food chain on podcasts. And I just teach and teach and teach and teach and teach, because I figure if a broke single mom fired from Denny's can do this, anybody can do it.
Go check out the podcast. Go check out the free ebook. I guarantee you it's loaded with tons of content. You got to think, I mean, that book is the culmination of over $500 million of real estate transactions, 2,000 deals, over 500 students. Go check out the book. Go connect with her. I promise you will be entertained. It's been so wonderful having you on the show. I appreciate you coming out today.
Thanks, man. It was so fun to talk to you. You're so great.
Oh, I appreciate it. We'll probably have to have you on again.
Follow your steps. You work, you got your wife, you're going to have babies. Like, life doesn't have to be so complicated.
I agree with you. It doesn't have to be. I think if everybody took a more simple approach and tried to simplify their life, they would probably end up a whole lot happier.
They would. They really would.
Well,
thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. All of you guys go to dwanderful.com and check me out. I'm loads of fun.
And we'll make sure that all those links make it in the show notes here. So if you're driving or anything right now, don't worry about it. We'll post it on there. Hey, it's been fantastic having you. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you, honey. God bless you guys.